Welcome to Fraud Friday. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking loan fraud, bankers, public officials, and borrowers who got caught. Today we're talking about Kris Roglieri. I believe we're at chapter 14 on this fraud. Bring everyone up to speed. Kris has been indicted and jailed for an alleged Ponzi scheme. The numbers are anywhere from $50 to $200 million. I think we're going to settle in the $80 to $100 million range. Basic fraud alleged that he took deposits from borrowers. The main one that we're talking about is an egg, appropriate today with the price of eggs, an egg farm in Minnesota, a $100 million loan. The borrower paid Kris $5 million, and that was supposed to be structured as a prepaid interest account. You give me $5 million that I'll commit to the loan. Kris was acting as a banker, non-banker in this situation, and said, and good news, you don't have to pay the interest. Well, of course, the $5 million was dissipated, according to the feds, the prosecutors, the DOJ, and the trustee. Number of issues that we reported this today at our Fraud Friday. Went to cars, private jet travel was almost $1 million, $4.4 million in luxury watches, jewelry, and antiques. The star of the show was a tourbillon skull watch he paid $2.2 million for. Side note, somehow that came up in a conversation that someone was wearing. I say, hey, I know about those. I do not wear one, by the way. Anyway, number of cars, number of watches, just the toys. Okay, so here's the deal. He's been in jail since May of last year. He was indicted, initially arrested for gun charges, an AKA style assault rifle in New York State, and a high-speed capacity ammunition cartridge. And that's what was he initially jailed for. Then he was jailed on 5 counts of loan fraud. Now, white-collar crime is usually you get the bail, and when you're sentenced, you do your time. But this has a twist, and I'm going to quote you directly from the judge. As I said, he's been in jail since May 4th, and the reason why is he threatened to kill an FBI agent. Quote, he knew the home address of the agent. He knew the first name, and he said, I'm going to go put a bullet in this guy's head. And the judge and the courts take those type of threats very seriously. The defense said, hey, he's blowing off steam. He's under a lot of pressure. You can't, we have 2 psychiatrists said he's not going to harm anybody. We need to let this man out of jail so he can assist in his case and his defense. And again, 95% of white-collar loan fraud criminals are out on bail. This Kris is the exception. By the way, when I call Kris, I do have a personal connection with him. He was the main loan broker promoter of a conference. I spoke at his event for many, many years. I would not call him a friend, but definitely a close business associate. He and I would talk to each other. We commiserated. Our fathers passed at the same time, and they both served during the Korean War. Kris said his dad was part of the Frozen Chosen. So we had that was our bonding, and we talked about, he did a lot of training. I do training. So this hits me. This hits me hard. It's that he hurt a lot of people. I don't have at fingertips how many employees he had, but 30 to 50 employees in his training courses. He put a black mark on the industry that's making it harder for loan brokers to be trusted by lenders. And a lot of people got hurt, and millions and millions of dollars were invested by people who he trusted. I had a conversation with a loan broker in Vegas when I spoke at an event who said he felt personally violated that Kris pitched him this, and he considered Kris a friend and pitched him that, hey, I could take care of your clients, pay the fee up front. And anyway, a lot of people got hurt, but this is why he's not getting out of jail. So the defense attorney said, blowing off steam, et cetera, et cetera. But this is what the judge said. Nope. How the defense said, having been professionally assessed by 2 psychiatrists who found that he represents at most a minimal risk of behavior, how can you hold him? And the court wrote, the answer is simple. The court is taking defendant at his word. Defendant's statements include the following: you effed with the hand that feeds you, you're going to get effed up. Listen, I'll gladly talk about this. My fears, I'll rip off your Jack Nicholson, A Few Good Men reference. You want to come after me with guns, you're going to get the same. I feel myself getting angry and vengeance to those who are doing this, including the attorneys, judge, receiver, etc. The judge did not take kindly by that. He said, I don't play by the rules, never have, and never will. The court has rarely seen such degrading, threatening, and worrisome communication in the context of financial fraud. Defendant did not mince words in his text messages. He communicated precisely how he was feeling, angry and vengeful. He stated he did not care about authority and discussed the use of guns and physical violence and the specific individuals, i.e. the FBI agent, he was angry for. Defendant's assertion that the text messages were vague at best and contained some bombastic language is disingenuous. I believe he referenced it as a B-movie type of script. Defendant named who his intentions were aimed toward with sincere vitriol. When the government searched defendant's home, it found numerous firearms, including the AR-15 style rifle, and that he had forgotten. 3 other guns that he had forgotten about, but they were antiques. So I guess if it's an antique gun, it can do less damage than if it's not. Anyway, so the issue is he's not getting out. He made the threats. He said they were under duress, and I read through the psychological reports, and I understand where he was saying I'm assuming, and I think I can assume in this, that there was alcohol involved. There are pictures of him imbibing when he was doing this, and he said he was in a dark spot. The FBI said that they have a suicide note in his possession, and the defense said, well, he didn't do it. I'm not an expert in this, and I'm not going to weigh in on this. But I'm going to conclude with this comment. One of the psychiatrists said this, and I'm always intrigued about loan fraud, and I'm also always intrigued about how other people go along with that. I've reported on many stories where a department head of a bank or the president of the bank will go down, but they bring other people with them. And that I feel very strongly about how other people get caught up this. The famous story of Bank Serve, where the president, Carrie Agee, was indicted. She's serving 5.5 years for SBA loan fraud, but she took a number of her senior executives with her. I believe 4 or 5 also were convicted. So I've always been intrigued in it. But anyway, this is very interesting for me. Defendant testing revealed, quote, a strong need to pursue unusually challenging endeavors in invites? I don't even know what that word is. Goal-oriented behaviors which most others would find unrealistic. He is frequently able to coax others into doing things that he would not otherwise do, and often he is successful in exciting their own wish fulfillment in the process. So what we have is a man who can, by force of personality, bend others to his will and bring them along into the fraud. But sadly, and the whole thing is sad, but sadly for Kris is he's not going to get out of jail till his trial. Who knows when that's going to happen? We cannot forget the number of people who were really hurt. The judge 41-page opinion said, hey, a threat to my court people, that is a real problem. These people take that personally and it impacts them. And so the judge is not buying the defense's thing. A threat's a threat, he's blown off steam. No, a threat is a very serious crime against the individual, especially the public officials, in this case, including the attorneys, the judge himself, and the court staff. This concludes today's episode of Fraud Friday. As I said, I believe we're episode 14. Check back later for more. We will be following us. And hey, I am doing this organically. I'm not going to play games on my YouTube subscriptions. I'm not going to do that. And I think we're pushing 900. I'd love to get to 1,000. And if you could show me some love and click that subscribe button, I would appreciate it. Thanks for joining us today for Fraud Friday, so you can stop criminals. My tagline is from stealing from your bank. Perhaps I should change that from stealing from you.